So Harry, what did you talk about already so far? We talked about the journey, how did you move to performance, and then we talked about CDN, the
CDNs, backend, APIs, headless
APIs
a little bit.
Headless a little bit, and then we talked about HTML.
Yeah.
What are other aspects that are important for web performance that people should focus on?
An interesting one that is, I always assume it's a solved problem just 'cause it's one of the first things I learned as a performance engineer, but that displays a clear lack of understanding and empathy. Image optimization. Like, it can be a really simple thing that often gets overlooked. And actually, I'd be interested to know it. Well, I guess running a CMS, a lot of your customers will have images, right?
Right. Completely.
Do you do anything to help optimize them, or do you tell them it's their responsibility, or do you?
No, we use the Imagix to deliver images for our clients.
Oh, so every customer of yours, every client of yours gets Imagix by
default, yes.
That's nice.
So we're thinking, like, should we apply it as an extra cost? We thought images is so basic in the experience that would be a bit stupid to say, like, okay, you should pay extra for getting the basic experience. So we thought, like, integrating Imagix right from the beginning.
That's very good of you. I like that. I like that. Yeah, images is one of those things where I try and get a bit too obsessive. And when I work on a client project and I'm doing an audit, I'll be like, oh yeah, and you've got this much CSS here, and you've got that there, and you've got that. And then I won't even notice they've got a 2 megabyte PNG as their logo, right? So like, oh yeah, I should focus on that.
Which is a common mistake, actually.
Hugely.
It seems extreme, but actually it is a common mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I was speaking at a conference in the US years ago. Their homepage weighed 17 point something megabytes. Just because every speaker photograph was saved as a high-res PNG rather than a medium to high-res JPEG. But the reason I think image optimization is still a problem is because generally people don't do what you're doing. Generally people leave it as a manual task that they hope somebody will do. So I'll work with a lot of clients where they will have a CMS. Maybe they're in publishing, maybe they are a newspaper. And they'll have huge images. So I will sort of explain to the client that, look, you've got all these problems with third parties or CSS or your JavaScript or whatever, but you've also got a lot of heavy images. And there's some ways I can scare clients into fixing it. Because I could say to them, hey, look, well, what's your bandwidth bill for Cloudinary or for Cloudflare? Oh, we did 80 gig last week. Cool. Well, it turns out 61 gig of that was images. So basically you spent this many thousands. You could use that tactic. And I just made all those numbers up, the 80, 61, the cost of it.
But they make sense. And we had the same kind of observation. We had, like, mostly we deliver images, even if, like, we deliver a lot of API calls, but they're so small that images become the biggest thing.
Exactly. And what will normally happen is whoever it is in their team, your marketing team are generally non-technical, and they probably won't be on Macs, so they'll have to know of image optimization software for Windows. That also increases their amount of work, right? They just want to get a landing page live quickly. They don't want to open an image editing suite, resize, save it out. They just want to, whatever the photographer or the content team's given them, they just want to use that immediately.
And they don't want to break the work either, because if they get to convert it and optimize it themselves, they might be breaking the work because, you know, adding pixels or having some artifacts, all these kind of things. Yeah. There's also a risk.
Loads of reasons. I mean, another fairly common one is that certain sites have to have very nice images. I was working with a premium sort of retailer. Again, I won't name them. But recently this year I've been working with a very premium retailer who've got very beautiful product photographs. And their design team are really, no, it needs to be this high res, it needs to be. And one thing I would love to do, we never got around to doing it, is I would love to actually A/B test. What is engagement like if all your JPEGs are 80% quality or they're 55% quality, for example? And just, well, let's prove it. If you're right and 80 is better for the business, we'll stick with that, right? We could measure it. But I think the main problem is what happens is, regardless of how we get there, I'll go into a company, I'll go into a business, and I'll say to them, look, you need to optimize your images, blah, 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 it's costing you this much. And then whoever's in charge will say, well, can you please do an introductory workshop to the marketing team? Show them how to use it, show them what it means, show them how it matters, or for the design team, or for whoever. And I'll do that. And then a week later, they get bored and they stop doing it again. And it's very hard to police. So generally, what I will try and tell my clients, whoever's got the credit card, I will say to them, look, if it's going to take your designer X minutes a day to optimize an image, that's this many hours or days a year, work out how much that designer is being paid, work out how much that is worth to the business. It's probably genuinely cheaper to just pay ImageX or pay Cloudinary or pay somebody else to do it for you. Because it means your designer is getting to spend their time doing what you've paid them to do, which is design. Your marketing team is creating content, not optimizing it. If you could just sell that work to a commoditized and also fantastic service like ImageX or Cloudinary, Cloudinary can achieve way better than I can do manually, and I'm a performance engineer. Sometimes, especially, and it's very kind of a privileged position to be in, but most of my clients, it's cheaper for them to pay somebody to do it than it is for them to hope their team do it for them. So I really admire that you baked it in as part of a natural, just part of the product, because that's unusual. Because most CMSs have either their own proprietary, not very good at optimization.
We had that.
Or, did you really?
That. Yeah, we had. We used an open source image converter. We put it in the product, and we put services around it to make it. But we understood that it's their focus. You know, it's like us. We're an API CMS, headless CMS, right? And we were doing this, and we're focusing on this to make it right. Well, ImageX are doing the same thing for images, and they're really good at it. Not only they can do the conversion and the optimization, but they have also the opportunity to deliver different formats to different devices, all these kind of optimizations that are so good.
I really admire that line of thinking, because I get this a lot with my clients who are like, oh, we would use SpeedCurve, which is by far my favorite real user monitoring performance tool. But we can build it ourselves internally. It's like, okay, you could, even if you were to snapshot SpeedCurve right now, you need to set an entire team of engineers building a clone. And while they're building a clone, SpeedCurve have added 5 new features. And you'll always be paying catch up. And all of a sudden, you've got an entire engineering team in your business who is no longer focusing on your core business. You're going to pay
who will maintain it? Who will add the features?
Yeah.
And also, there's something that people don't, other than maintenance and all these kind of things, is that focus. You know, ImageX, they have only that focus. So they're thinking all the time about this. Whereas you will be thinking about it maybe for 6 months and then you're gone. And the next time you need to evolve it, it's a big problem for you.
Or the person who built the internal clone of ImageX leaves,
and then
it's like, oh right, we've got abandonware that is actually not working.
And cost-wise, even, like, for instance, we are again, we're doing the same kind of thing for headless CMS as a CMS. And then, you know, we have a lot of clients, and that's why we can have some infrastructure, and the cost will be much lower because you get, like, everyone is sharing the same infrastructure in some way. You can't afford doing that. You can't do that, actually. You will need 10 machines maybe for that, but I can use 10 machines to serve thousands of clients, and you will use the same machines for only your clients, which is like cost effectiveness is not the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely nowhere near.
So that's why it was like an easy solution for us. Like, back when we started, you know, you talked at some point about, you know, yourself being the over-engineering engineer, where I can do it better than the simple way. This is what we started. We started like, we can do image optimization. It's an easy thing. Let's get the best algorithm out there and implement it, right?
So I don't know how much possibility we have to blank out names here, but if I need to, I'll let you know if I need to blank out this name. But one of my favorite success stories ever, friends of mine from Leeds, they built an image optimization tool. They called it they called it Resource It. And they had to host it themselves. So they were going around all these big web hosts, trying to get deals on, like, how, look, we've got this application, it's really expensive, it's got CPU cost of doing the optimization, then bandwidth of actually serving the images. And they gave a really incredible talk at a meetup. They're friends of mine, they're from my city. They gave a really great talk at a meetup where they said, we accidentally went from being an image optimization business to a web hosting business. And their core focus had been lost. They were like, wait, we don't care about web hosting. Why are we trying to broker deals with web hosts when that's not why we did this?
And you don't have the energy to focus on that. All the team is now focusing on something that is not core to your business, right?
Yeah, so they lost sight and they were frustrated. And what ended up happening, and I won't name this company just because I definitely won't, but they just started going around trying to get web hosting firms and CDNs to, like, basically partner with them or give them good deals. And they rang one CDN out in the US. And the CDN was so impressed with the product, they were like, look, we won't host you, we'll just buy you. And my friends, they sold their startup for megabucks. And now one of the big names, one of the big image optimization services out there, it's just all built on my friends' bits of code, because they were like, look, we just want to make images better. And this hosting company's like, sweet, well, we'll just buy you then. So that was a real perfect example.
It ended well for them.
Oh, it ended very well for them.
For that kind of scenario. I know once we had here from Wonderly, the city of Wonderly, and he was explaining, Wonderly, they do books for children. And it's like printing, they print books, actually, customizable books. For instance, for kids, you can put their names, their kind of some resemblance of their faces, and then they build the whole customized book for that. So it's for gifts.
That's nice.
So it's a business of customizable books, basically, printing. And he was saying that he arrived in the company and he saw that everything was done in-house. And part of that was the printing mechanism. Basically the rendering, and they had their own rendering engine. And he thought that was a big waste of energy there, and he just moved instead of having that, he used the web to render. And just by doing that, you're using, for instance, Chrome or headless Chrome for doing that, and there is a team that is doing the rendering right. It's everyone, it's an open source project, everyone is contributing to that to make it the best possible. And he said, just by remove that part, we gain so much time and so much energy, because we don't have to re-implement this thing again. So it's always about sometimes you feel like you have to implement all your things, but he was saying it's important to kind of, there's the core thing, the core business, your core business, the customization, that you need to build it yourself. But everything else, give it to the others. It will be much faster to give it to specialized companies to do it for you.
Cheaper, faster, and also you've got things like support contracts. So
It
means that if your own image optimization service internally goes down, you probably owe your customers money because you've disrupted their service. Whereas if you're using a third party, they are the ones who are like, okay, we're down, we're going to fail over to this data center or whatever. They've got mitigations in place where it's very rare you've got support contracts with yourself. But
right. But so for image optimization, it's for delivering optimized images, compressed. And the right formats to browsers.
Yeah, so WebP where possible. Again, another excellent reason to use ImageX or Cloudinary or Fastly's I/O is that they can intelligently switch to WebP, whereas there's nothing more tedious than generating WebP images as part of your dev process or even as your build process. So yeah, intelligently swapping out right formats. JPEG 2000,
detecting browsers and serving the right format as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, that's great. That got us into the several topics of web performance. Thank you very much, Harry.
No, thank you.